Hey guys, it's Monday and we are in week 2 of unit 5 that is covering food. So let's do this. Before we get into this, I will link our playlist for all of the units that we have covered so far. Each unit covers 2 weeks and there's 19 units in total. So if you want to catch us right from the start, be sure to check out that link. The program that we are following is Playing Preschool, and you can find this program on thebusytoddler.com. Best investment I've ever made. Some of the supplies that we're going to need for this week, it really is a lot of food and ingredients. You're gonna have most of this stuff in the house already, but I'll just mention a few. We're gonna need some frozen vegetables, a potato, celery, carrots, all fresh, some marshmallows, bananas, cheese, and bread, milk. We are going to be making some bread in a bag later on this week, so you'll need flour, some quick rising yeast, sugar, water, salt. We'll also need some large Ziploc bags for that one. We're also going to be making some ice cream in a bag, which is really more just like a soft serve, maybe like a, what are those things called? A Frosty. It's probably gonna be more like a Frosty. But again, you're gonna need some large and small Ziploc bags. You're gonna need some table cream or whipping cream and some salt. Rock salt works best, but table salt will do, and lots of ice. We're also gonna need some Post-its and some dry erase markers. The books that we're going to be reading for this week: Growing a Vegetable Garden by Lois Ehlert, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carr, The Little Red Hen by Diane Muldrow, From Grass to Milk by Stacy Toss Bolstead, and If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Numeroff. So today you're going to start with your morning calendar routine and add in the poem and song for the week. And we're going to introduce the topic of food again, but this time we're going to introduce the idea of categorizing food into groups. Our read aloud is Growing a Vegetable Garden. It's also called Growing Vegetable Soup. I have found the story seems to have 2 different names for some reason. Things to talk about this week are vegetables, where they grow, how they grow, your kids' favorite vegetables, things like that. Then we're going to get into our learning activity, which is sorting vegetables, followed by our easy activity, which is doing some vegetable stamp artwork. This morning we started out with just a simple food graph chart on the middle of the table. I quickly drew this yesterday evening and then quickly realized that it was kind of out of date. So I printed off the best I could find online, but I really had a hard time finding a relevant food chart that my daughter would understand. So we talked a lot about classifying foods, putting it into categories. We've never done too much of that before, previous to this unit. So we talked about all sorts of different foods, the fruits and veggies and berries. We talked about carbohydrates, breads and crackers, and healthy grains. And we talked about junk food. That was the one she knows, treats, as we refer to them in our house, are just things that aren't very healthy for us. They're usually full of sugar, and that's why we only have a little bit sometimes. Then we did our read aloud. How to Grow Vegetable Soup was the name that I found it under on YouTube. She didn't want to watch this book too many times because she already knew all about this book. We do have a small vegetable garden in our yard during the summertime, so she is quite knowledgeable about how we plant seeds or sprouts and the maintenance on those items to get them to grow and to harvest and to eat. She kind of didn't care too much about this book. We only watched it twice and it wasn't very long. You're always encouraged to do a picture walk through the book first and try to guess what's happening with your child before you do a read aloud. And with this one, though we don't do the picture walkthrough, she knew exactly what they were doing and was talking over the person who was reading the story on YouTube because she knew exactly what was going on these pages. It's also suggested in the program that through your things to talk about or during your read aloud or after your read aloud, to make a list with your child of vegetables that they like. Then we got into our learning activity, which was to sort vegetables. In the program, it suggested that you have some frozen peas and carrots, pour a few into a dish, and then provide 2 empty dishes for your child to sort them in. I didn't have peas and carrots. I had a 5 vegetable melody, which also included some lima beans, which I thought was fantastic since we just introduced legumes in with our vegetable category when we were speaking about our food categories this morning. So I loved that I had an actual example rather than just a can, but an actual physical bean for her to hold in her hand, just to help drive home that concept a little bit more. She had no problem sorting these vegetables into the little bowls, and I didn't think that she would, but it just gave us a great opportunity to talk more about vegetables. While she was sorting these vegetables, I asked her about which ones grow underground and which ones grow off of a vine, stuff like that. And she was pretty well knowledgeable in this, as they're pretty basic vegetables, and 3 of the 5 that were in our dish we had previously grown in our garden. So we talked about her favorites, the shape, the size, the color, which one had the most, which one we had the least of. And when she was finished sorting these vegetables, she randomly asked me for some celery, which is odd because she's never liked celery before. It's the only thing that she has tried throughout her 3 years of life and has not liked. So thankfully I had some because it's part of our easy activity. So our easy activity is a vegetable stamp. It is recommended in the program that you use a potato, a carrot, and some celery. So for this activity, I rolled out a very large piece of paper, just anticipating that this was going to be well used. Every time we have used food or some sort of stamp in the past, whether it's our letters or just on a piece of paper, I'm always having extra sheets on hand because we get through one sheet so quickly and Nola still wants to stamp. So I had potato, carrots, and celery. A little tip, I had cut these the night before so that they would dry out a little bit and wouldn't be so wet when she went to paint with them. So I taped down the piece of paper onto the table and squirted a little bit of paint on a plate and then gave her the veggies. And I started stamping too, just to give her some ideas. I made a flower, what I thought looked like a flower. She had no idea what it was. And then I used the celery to make a couple butterflies around my flower. Still, she had no clue. And in about 90 seconds, it was done. Because I prepared a little more for that one. Oh well, we still had fun. So that was all. Another day done. It's Tuesday and a very snowy Tuesday here at that, so let's see what we're doing today. As always, you're gonna start with your opening calendar routine along with the song and poem for this unit. Our read aloud today is going to be The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and things to talk about today are a review of the letter M, the sound it makes, and some familiar words that begin with that letter. You can take this opportunity to look back through the book and find a couple of both large and small M's with your child. Just a few pages is all you need. Then we're going to get into our learning activity, followed by our easy activity, so let's do this. Today we started out with our easy activity, which is some banana slicing. If your child already hasn't started to learn this skill of slicing, then this is a great opportunity to start. It's a great starter food to begin practicing this skill. We've already tried this a few times, but this time Nola mostly did it on her own. I helped her again with the first few slices and then just let her have to it. She cut thick ones, she cut thin ones, and then each time she was finished slicing a banana, which I put 2 on the table because, you know, they're gonna want to practice. After she finished slicing the banana, then we would count the slices and then eat them. We started with the learning activity because I use the format of presenting something on the dining room table in the morning. If it in any way involves food, that food is going to be consumed as well. So that's why we started with the learning activity today. After that, we got into the reading of The Very Hungry Caterpillar, which this is one of the books that we do have in our home, but one that we have not read in a long time. So we read through it twice, and then when we got to the page where there's lots of different foods, we started to categorize, and that was a way for us to kind of recap and recall with the food categories that we discussed yesterday. Then we got into our learning activity, which is to take the letter M printout that is provided in the program, and if you're not following this program, you can just easily draw out a block letter M, and then have your child get some marshmallows and a little bit of paint and use the marshmallows as stamp to color in the M. This is why we didn't start with this activity. So with the marshmallow stamping, this was a great review for an old topic, which is color mixing, and then we also talked about the letter M and some words that we know that begin with the letter M, the sound that it makes. And then this kind of turned into a little bit of sensory play. We later took the marshmallows off toothpicks because my setup is the same as always for something like this. I tape a placemat to the table. I tape the piece of paper that we're painting on to the placemat, and then we had little toothpicks that were put in the marshmallows. And then I let Nola put the marshmallows on little toothpicks to start, to stay clean in the beginning. It doesn't last that long. Then we later took the marshmallows off of the little toothpicks and started stamping them with our fingers. And then that just got kind of into squishing the marshmallows because, you know, they bounce back and take their shape again for a certain amount of time. And then they just start to fall apart and become very sticky. We sliced bananas. And we did marshmallow stamps. Which was your favorite activity today?
I know.
What? What?
The Valentine's Day activity.
The Valentine's Day activities. We're making Valentine's Day cards. That was her favorite activity for today.
See you tomorrow.
Hey guys, it's Wednesday and it's gonna get a little bit messy. Today you start with your calendar routine along with our poem and song. Then you're going to introduce the topic of food groups again, today focusing on breads and grains because we're making bread. Our read aloud for the day is The Little Red Hen, which is the perfect book for a day to make bread. Things to talk about today are the book, what happened, and why those types of things happened. Our learning activity today is making bread in a bag. Very toddler friendly. Followed by our easy activity, which is a sensory bin of flour, or in our case, mostly sugar. So let's get into this. Today we started with nothing on the table. We had to wait for my son to be napping, or pretend to be napping as he did today, so that we could really get into this. I wanted to be able to have everything in place for Nola to accomplish this as much on her own as much as possible. So I didn't preset anything. I didn't pre-measure anything. The only thing I really had to do for this was melt butter. So I think what I'm going to do is just do a screenshot for the instructions on how to make the bread, because there are some steps. It's very easy, very simple. I'm not a baker and this bread looks and smells fantastic, but we're kind of saving it till dinner because it's still warming. It's still cooling. We haven't eaten the bread yet, but it looks and smells delicious. Normally when we are going to bake or cook or something like that, I will pre-measure out things so that Nola can easily dump and add and mix all on her own. Here she comes. Whoa, watch my toes. Today I really didn't do much of that at all. I wanted her to be able to scoop and pour, and what we did is I set out the bin that we were going to have our sensory play in, so that she could do all the mixing in there and totally scoop out the flour, the sugar, the salt, all that stuff as much on her own as we possibly could. So I think it was a success. We haven't tasted the bread yet, but we are getting there. And then while we were letting the dough rise, and while it was baking, she had a nice sensory bin play with flour and sugar and pretty much, well, just the utensils that we use to make the bread. While we were doing the sensory bin, this is where we did some more recall and recap with the book and what they did and how we were kind of copying the same thing that the Little Red Hen does in the book as far as making the bread goes. And then we just talked about things that, you know, the texture of the flour and the sugar and how light and fluffy they feel and how fun they are to make a mess with. This was hands down the longest sensory bin that we have ever had. I've never had her so engaged in a sensory bin for this amount of time. It was close to an hour and a half that she played with this sensory bin. And judging from how she looked at the end of it, what were you doing? I think she tried to eat some. Did you try to eat some of the flour and sugar?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did it taste?
Good.
Good? Mm. Gross. So we had a very, very successful day with this activity. Oh, he's going down. That's it for us today. Say bye. You're falling.
I can make my delicious soup.
You making soup? Okay, you let me know when I gotta taste it. Taste test it, okay? She's making soup already. It's Thursday and it's freezing cold. It's minus 17 without the wind chill, so jammy day. Not like that doesn't happen if it's not minus 17, but especially because it's minus 17 today. So today you are going to open with your, a note on yesterday. The bread, how it turned out. Not great. Tasting. The texture, it's not too dense, but it's not overly fluffy. It's kind of a nice mesh of both. And I would recommend adding some herbs and spices to it because it just tastes like flour. So it didn't taste as delicious as it smelt. If you toasted it and put something on it, I'm sure it would be great. We just ate flat out bread. Like that's what Nola wanted. She wanted a slice of bare bones bread, and then I had to take a bite. And it wasn't delicious. But it wasn't terrible. I mean, all in all, it was a success. So on to today. Start with your morning calendar routine as always and add in the poem and song if your child hasn't bored of it yet, because quite frankly, mine just want to read it anymore. Today we are going to still stay on the topic of food groups, of course, and we are going to talk about the dairy food group. Things to talk about with your child today are the letter M, the sound that it makes, the words that we know. We are revisiting the letter M today. So you can take an opportunity to look back through your book, which today we are reading from grass to milk. And honestly, I couldn't find this on YouTube. I found another one called The Milk Makers that I thought was the most appropriate for Nola and her age and mindset. And we just took another book that she wanted to read today, and we found the letter M's there. And quite honestly, she points out the letter M everywhere, from clothing, signs, things we see on TV, on books. Once we focus in on a letter, then it really sticks with her. All these activities, they're really at work. These skills and knowledge and recognition is really sticking with her. Our learning activity today is counting cheese, and our easy activity is painting bread with milk. So today we started with the book. I put her cup of milk because she must have a cup of milk in the morning from her milk cup. That's what I put on the table with the computer so that we could watch the new story and just start off with the conversation of the food group that is dairy. A little later on, we got into our easy activity, which was to paint bread with milk. So for this activity, I set out some small little shot glasses. I got Nola's small little pouring jug, and I put a little bit of milk in the pouring jug. She then filled the glasses. Well, put a little bit. We didn't want much. We didn't want to saturate the bread. We just wanted to paint it. She dipped in some food coloring, and then we sliced up the bread that she had made yesterday, and she painted about 4 slices of this bread. She painted each bread a particular color, and then did some taste testing with it, and yes, I had a bite too. Oh, I hear somebody coming. There he is. So this activity was awesome. We revisited a lot of previous activities with this. Yes, you're happy with that, huh? From pouring to color mixing, it was really, really great, and she had a lot of fun. Then we got into our learning activity, which is to count some cubes of cheese. So I thought, why not let her slice some first? Because we have been slicing the past few days ever since it was one of the activities included in our program. Yes, my dear. And I'm going to try to keep this going as much as I can throughout. You got a lot to say? Yeah? We're going to try to keep that going as much as we can, hoping for every day. So it's recommended that you get cubes of cheese and just have your child count them out, 1 through 10. You know, you can sort big, small, if they're in different sizes. If you're cutting them, cut them in some different shapes or different sizes. And like I said, I let Nola slice the cheese after I had cut a few big slices off the bricks. She had cut them into smaller pieces. So she had a great time. This was great because it's quite different from a banana. The cheese is a very different consistency. It just gave her a different experience when it comes to cutting. And of course we counted, and of course we ate. So that was it for today. It was super easy, lots of fun. We'll see you tomorrow. It's Friday and we're finishing big. We're making ice cream in a bag. And it was delicious. Today you're to start out with your opening calendar routine along with the song and poem for the week. Then you're to get into the read aloud, which is If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. Then for our things to talk about is just a recap and recall of this book. There are a lot of steps and things that go on in this book that lead round to full circle. So give your child the assistance they need in the recap and recall and remembering the beginning, the middle, and the end. Our learning activity today is an alphabet review. This alphabet review is on all of the letters that we have covered so far. A, N, R, M, C, J. Yeah, that's all. Then our easy activity is make an ice cream in a bag. And it really is that easy. We started out today with the learning activity, and for this one, the alphabet review, you're supposed to take a dry erase marker and write these letters on a window and give your child a cloth and have them erase the letter you call out. This is the second time this has happened. No, still not happening. The reason why I am hesitant on this one is not so much with Nola. She's pretty well behaved, 3-year-old, but I have a 1-year-old who's always watching. And you know babies, toddlers, because he's coming in, he's 13 months now, so he's entering his toddlerhood. They store stuff in the vault. And although we do our best as parents to keep these things, like markers, away from our children, they seem to magically always find a way. It's like kid magic. They actually have it. And then one day I'm gonna turn around and there's gonna be a magic marker all over my walls or cupboards or floors, somewhere that I don't want it and that it doesn't wash off. So, nope, not doing it. My compromise on this is we brought our easel up from the basement, which is a dry erase on one side and a chalkboard on another side. Now I did try this way back when we first started this program, and it wasn't successful. It lasted all of 10 seconds, and then she wanted to go play because I had brought her downstairs to the easel, and that's like our out of rotation toys. They're all in the basement. So, you know, my bad. That was just doomed to fail. So this time we brought the easel up. I had written out the letters that we have reviewed so far in both capital and small versions, scattered them about, no particular number of any certain amount, and we got into this activity pretty much well as soon as she came downstairs this morning. So I would call out a letter and I would say, find me a capital A, and she would erase the capital A. And then I'd say, find me a small r, and she would erase the small r. And then she noticed very quickly into this game, well, Mom, there's 2 small n's. And I said, well, erase all the small n's. And then I started saying, what letter makes the J sound? And she said J, and I said, erase all the J's that you see, you know. So this game, though it didn't last very long, it quickly morphed and changed into a few different variations, and I'm going to leave the easel upstairs because I think we will get back into this game a few more times throughout the weekend, and Colton loves drawing on the chalkboard side. But he doesn't like not being able to carry the chalk around with him all over the house, so we'll see how that goes. Then we're going to get into our easy activity, and our easy activity is to make ice cream, and it really is quite simple. When I first said to Nola, hey, you want to make some ice cream in a bag? Her response was, no, let's make an obstacle course in the living room. Are you kidding me? Ice cream. Child, ice cream in a bag. No, maybe later. Okay. So we finally got to it. And this is some very simple steps here for making this ice cream in a bag, and it's very, very child friendly. And I will say it turned out great. First, you're going to take a sandwich-sized zip bag and fill it with half a cup of cream. We used whipping cream and some chocolate syrup, not specified how much. If you don't have syrup, then you can sub in a splash of vanilla like we did, and a bit of sugar, and please add the sugar, you will need it. We didn't measure ours, it was just roughly a tablespoon and a half. Then you're going to place that baggie inside another sandwich bag and zip that one up. Then put the double bagged mixture inside a bigger Ziploc bag and zip that up. Then you're going to add lots and lots of ice, and when you think you have enough ice, add some more ice. We used all the ice that we had in the house, which was 2 trays. Then you're going to add a 1/4 cup of salt to the ice mixture. The coarser the salt, the better, but table salt will do. Then you're going to place that into a grocery bag, and then place that grocery bag into another grocery bag, and I will add in here, get some mittens because this gets cold. Then you're going to vigorously shake this bag for 8 minutes non-stop. So start a timer, put on a couple songs, and start to shake your booty and your bag. You can't stop shaking it. Pass it back and forth. Nola tired of shaking this bag very quickly, and I don't blame her because my hands were getting pretty cold. Then once you have shaken for 8 minutes, unwrap your glory that is this ice cream. Now it's like a soft serve, very soft served, almost like a Frosty. Actually, it tasted exactly like a vanilla Frosty. Delicious. We're definitely making this again because, you know, we can't let that little jug of whipping cream go to waste. We're gonna make ice cream every day until that whipping cream is gone. And I might make some in the evening for myself. So that's how you make ice cream in a bag. Now you can sub in, if you don't do dairy, you can sub in your almond milk, soy milk. I'm not sure if it will work the same, but I wish you the best of luck because that was some good ice cream in a bag. I must say I didn't have my hopes up too high, but that was tasty. So there we have it, another week of fantastic, engaging activities. This was a really great unit to bring your kids into the kitchen, and hopefully you continue to do so even beyond this unit because, as I promised before, with a little bit of help and practice, they will be helpful in the kitchen eventually. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you are considering starting some preschooling at home with your toddler or just looking for some simple activities that are engaging and educational and don't take a lot of prep, then please consider subscribing. Thanks.